The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your freezing host, Mike Azalina, and I'm joined by a guy who looks pretty comfortable in his little office there. Regzy Boo, we're back to that time of year.
We are. It's only out of sheer respect for my wife that I don't have the window cracked just a little bit.
Gosh, thanks. It is legitimately like single digits outside.
I know, but you know this. Like literally, we called Stein and I's room the ice box because we would leave our windows open. Yeah. And then when we ever have the opportunity to sleep at your house, the few times I have, it's always been in the basement because I'd rather be cold than hot. There's nothing worse to me than trying to sleep when you're too hot.
Well, feels like a 13 today, Regs. So, at this point, and it feels every bit of that. For those of you that don't know, our basement is not heated. If you're new to the podcast, we do have like a gas stove that I could, turn on and warm the entire basement when I'm down here. But I always kind of like balk at it because like by the time it warms up, I feel like we'll be done. So I'd have to start it.
Yeah.
An hour before we start, and then it gets brutally hot, like to the point where it's almost like
it's not easily regulated. Those things,
no,
it's just like it's just putting out heat.
It's
until
exactly
you turn
right.
it off.
You don't turn. I mean, I sit right next to it.
Yeah,
like
you'd really have to pre-plan. You'd have to start it like a half hour before you go down there, and then probably turn it and let it sit for 15 minutes.
Yep.
And then it's like it's a process.
Yeah, and it's about 3 feet from where I sit, so it would be just banging into me.
Listen, I know Fairbanks and I have always enjoyed sleeping down there when we've been at your house.
I know.
Us cave dwellers.
Yeah, you guys are something else. You're something else. I am much more a warm weather person. I like the warmth. This is who I am, and I will always be that. So this time of year is my least favorite time of year. Outside of a couple of things, and those things are football season, and obviously this is the time of year where we start gearing back up for baseball. So both of those things are still happening for us. We're not going to talk deep Phillies today. There's not a whole lot new to discuss, but we are going to talk Hall of Fame because it has been decided, and it's worth the conversation as to who is in, where the former Phillies stand, and what next year's ballot sort of looks like. So we'll spend some time here, and then the rest of the episode is fully in on the NFC Championship game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. So, Regs, I don't think we were surprised by what ended up being the class of 2025.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty, we had said we thought Billy Wagner was going to get in this year. We were pretty set on that. He got in with 82.5% of the vote. So good for him. He'll probably go in with the blank hat because he played for so many teams, which, makes sense. Regs, I don't think I knew his whole story. Like, I think we were still, like, when Billy was a Philly, we were in sort of high school at that point, like late middle school, high school. And honestly, once he left, I didn't really care because I didn't like him anymore.
Right.
First of all the Phillies writers talk glowingly about Billy Wagner. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I didn't know he broke his right arm and basically learned how to throw left.
I did. I forget where I heard that, but I think it wasn't like I knew that when he was with us. I think I learned that fairly recently when all his Hall of Fame stuff was going on, and I can't remember where, but that's wild, isn't it?
It's just insane. It's insane. I mean, good for him. That's
did he
good
win,
for him.
Did he win the championship or two? Did he win one?
I don't think he ever won a World Series. I don't think I can find that one.
No, that's fine. I'll look.
Yeah, look that up. CC Sabathia got in first ballot, 87% of the vote. No surprise there. We talked about him getting in on the first ballot. I don't know if you heard it, but there was an interview done. Who's the most difficult hitter you ever faced? And he was like, I don't really know, but Chase Utley pretty annoying in 2009. So a little hat tip to Chaser there.
Yep.
More to come on him later. And then Ichiro, 99.7% of the vote. One asshole decided to be the guy.
So funny.
Who didn't vote for one of the greatest hitters of our generation. 3,000 hits in 2 professional leagues. So you're an ass clown, whoever you are. And that's the type of guy who should have his vote taken away.
I would just love what the reason was. Because I'm not sure there's one you could go with that wouldn't make you be an asshole.
To be that guy.
I mean, Ichiro is still one of my favorite players, like from that time. I think all of us emulated that swing, right? Like it was the next iteration of like the Griffey swing with the waggle, like putting your hand up right and like fixing his shirt and that, lean, like it was the first guy we've ever seen like kind of lean towards first base and hit. I mean, guys now will talk about, Arias and how he sort of manipulates the baseball. Like the first person we've ever seen, like maybe outside of Tony Gwynn, was Ichiro. Yeah. And, we were a little late to Tony Gwynn, the tail end of his career. Sure. But like Ichiro was right in the sweet spot. And that guy was just awesome. Like he was awesome. He was probably one of my favorite players outside of the Phillies. Like him and Albert Pujols are just 2 of those guys that were just my favorite guys outside of Philadelphia.
I once watched Ichiro during interleague when they were in Philly, the Mariners. I once watched him take batting practice, and he hit every ball into the second deck. And it wasn't every round, but there was a round where he you could specifically tell he was just putting on a show, which is hilarious, right? Because like that wasn't what we knew Ichiro to be,
right?
But it shows that he could control the bat head,
right? Like
he could speed it up when he wanted to. And a special player, very, very cool that he's in. I don't
know what was more egregious though when they put out that list of like the highest percentages that only one person didn't vote for Ichiro, but there were 3 who didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr.
I know.
It's like, what are we doing here?
Look, I've said it on the show. There are many social media posts that I've made throughout my adult life where I've given credit to just how amazing Mariano Rivera is, but it still baffles me that he's like the only guy that's gotten in.
Yeah.
With 100% of the vote as a closer.
Taking nothing away from Mariano Rivera. He shouldn't he shouldn't be the only one.
And that's what I mean. He should have been one.
Yes,
but as a closer,
absolutely.
To be the only one at a position that doesn't even really have as much merit as it used to. It's crazy to me that guys like Griffey, Ichiro,
even Jeter didn't have. Yeah.
Right. These guys, and there are many more. There are many more. There are certain ones who should, like Sabathia. I feel like 87% of the vote is perfectly acceptable.
I agree. Yeah.
There are guys who shouldn't reach that pinnacle, but then there are dudes who are just generational and above even these other guys, like guys who could have a separate room in this museum, essentially.
Right.
And Ichiro is one. The other guys from this year's first year ballot that stayed on, we said it wasn't going to be a lot of guys. Like we weren't really that high on this group. But the only 2 aside from them were Dustin Pedroia, who we figured.
Yep.
He had about 12% of the vote, a little lower than I thought, to be honest with you. A guy who has an MVP or 2 MVPs and a couple of world titles. Definitely lower than I anticipated, especially being a Boston guy. And Felix Hernandez, good first appearance for him. 21% of the vote in his first year. That's a nice appearance. It shows that there are voters who are starting to say, look, wins don't matter that much, because he played for the Mariners and there weren't many wins to go around.
I think that's going to be one of the most interesting things moving forward with the Hall of Fame is how do they recalibrate for modern pitching?
Yeah.
Because it's not,
I think modern hitting too.
Well, sure. But I just I think there's such, it used to be you almost had to win 300 games to be a Hall of Famer.
Sure.
As a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
That, I don't know when we'll ever see that again. Honestly, I'm not sure in my lifetime we'll see another person win 300 games.
Right.
And so it's just, it used to be the benchmark.
Yeah.
And now, and we're getting to the point where the classes that keep coming in are not the guys that are hitting that mark.
Yeah.
It really ended with those 90s Braves pitchers, and like Randy Johnson and, guys like that. And it's just not the benchmark anymore. It'll be very interesting to see what the focus becomes, like you said, when it's not, wins aren't the most important statistic for a starting pitcher.
And it's crazy because we're in 2025, right? So 17 years ago, CC Sabathia was traded to the Brewers. 17 years ago sounds like a long time, but when you think about it in like baseball time frame, like it's not.
Right.
And Sabathia, the Phillies were like hard after him, didn't get him. He went to the Brewers and basically pitched from like August through October every third day.
Yeah.
There's not a single guy in baseball that would do that. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Think about that. 17 years ago, that happened. And he still had longevity. Like, he pitched, he was great for the Yankees for a while. Like, it wasn't, and by all accounts, a great human.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Like, by all accounts, a great human.
Right.
So guys that didn't get off the first ballot, Ian Kinsler, that I got to be honest, I actually had higher hopes for Ian Kinsler, but not a huge surprise. Russell Martin, gone. Brian McCann, gone. Troy Tulowitzki, gone. Adam Jones, gone. Curtis Granderson, see ya. Carlos Gonzalez, one and done. Ben Zobrist, no surprise. Fernando Rodney, goodbye. Hanley Ramirez, see ya. If you would have asked me halfway through Hanley Ramirez career, Troy Tulowitzki's career,
right,
I would have been like surefire. That's how fickle baseball is.
Yeah.
That's how fickle this sport is.
Yeah.
Longevity is so hard to come by. And some of these guys, like it says Hanley Ramirez 15 seasons, Troy Tulowitzki 13 seasons. How many of those did they play full? Not many.
Not many.
They were
the first couple, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Aside from that, I just really want to talk about former Phillies on here. Bobby Abreu in his 6th year got up to 19.5%. It's not looking good for Bobby. I thought, Regz, that this is what I meant when I said hitting, when we were talking about like sort of recalibrating the pitching side of things. I thought with like Bobby, the way that people look at hitting now, Bobby was like perfect because of his ability to take pitches, his ability to walk. Dude was always on base. So I thought maybe he'd take a jump this year, and he didn't. He barely moved.
Yeah.
So not much growth from Bobby. Jimmy, not much growth from Jimmy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, is Jimmy done? By no means. He's only in his 4th year on the ballot. But it's a little scary that he didn't move much at all.
Yeah.
I still think he's up there with some of these guys who are in.
I'm kind of hoping that Jimmy gets more and more votes as some of these, like you sent me the class for next year, and you and I both were like,
we're going to talk about that.
There might not be anyone.
I don't think there will be.
But that's what I mean. I may be hoping that Jimmy becomes, and again, we have our own opinions of Jimmy, obviously. And I think it's a shame that he has to sort of be viewed against lesser competition because of the era he played in and the shortstops that he played, like that were his contemporaries, is like this crazy class of some of the best baseball players that have ever lived.
Sure.
So I think he gets the short end of the stick when looking at his era. But then as you compare him to like the moving forward, you're like, well, crap, Jimmy Rollins is a much better player than any of these guys who are trying to, that are in these incoming classes.
Yeah.
So he's in that weird, like, middle ground. Yeah, it's very interesting.
he's gonna need like a Scott Rowland type of jump. Like Rowland was at like 38% in year 5, year 6. Like he's gonna need like to double his votes next year, and he might, because we're gonna talk about that class. So depending on what these voters do next year, he could. And then Chase Utley. Chase is in a great spot.
Yeah,
like
he is
40% of the vote in his second year. Chase is he's heading for Cooperstown. I would think 2028 could be the year. That might be pushing it off even a year more than I think, because I think he's gonna jump big time next year.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll double, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Well, if he doubles, he's in. But I don't know if it's out of the realm of possibility to get up to like 50, 55 next year. Maybe even close to 60. It's very possible for Chase.
Yeah.
With the ballot coming back next year. There might only be 2 Hall of Famers next year. Like Beltran will get in, and Andrew Jones is like 10% of the vote away. So give him another 26 votes, and Beltran has like a legit chance here.
Yeah, he's interesting to me.
I think Andrew belongs.
Oh no, I think Andrew Jones does.
Oh, you mean Bell? I said Beltran. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Beltran. That's my bad. Beltran only needs like 15 votes.
He's the interesting one. I agree. Watching Andrew Jones like with those teams.
Sorry, I said the wrong name. Because I think both belong.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I mean, when you look at it, if Andrew's getting in, Beltran has 800 more hits. They're dead even in home runs. 300 more RBIs. He's stolen 150 more bases. He's
wow, it's that much of a difference. Times. Wow, I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he pretty much has him in every category. Dead even in slugging.
It's very interesting.
But yeah, outside of that, he's pretty much got him in everything. So, and Andrew's in year 9 next year. Beltran's only in year 4. So let's talk about next year's ballot real quickly. I'm gonna go through Regz and just read these names off here. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Neil Walker.
Who?
No. Yeah, right. Rick Porcello. No.
Thanks.
Daniel Murphy. Daniel Murphy was like real good for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Nick Markakis.
Yeah, same thing.
Howie Kendrick. Matt Kemp.
Yeah, nope.
Always injured, Matt Kemp. Alex Gordon.
Yeah.
Gio Gonzalez. Edwin Encarnacion.
No.
Really good DH.
Yes.
I'd have to look at the numbers, but not a Hall of Famer. Not off the top of my head.
No.
I used to love this guy, and I wanted him as a Philly basically every year. Shin-Soo Choo.
Yeah.
Not a Hall of Famer, but I loved him.
Yeah.
And then the final 3, one I saved because, he had like a nice small run with the Phillies. Hunter Pence.
Yeah.
But not a Hall of Famer.
No.
And then the last 2, the 2 that I think could stay on after 1 year, like I think they'll both stay on. One to me is going to have question marks because of steroids. The other to me might be bias just because. So the one is Ryan Braun. I feel like Braun, like I feel like he should stay on the ballot. I don't know though if the steroid thing is going to get in the way. Because I believe he was caught twice.
Yeah. I mean, look, when you think of Ryan Braun, you think of one of the better hitters that like we remember, but
especially right-handed.
But I don't think Hall of Famer. Like, do you think Hall of Fame?
I think stay on the ballot for 10 years.
That's fair. I think yes. Yeah. I think that's fair.
I don't know that he's Hall of Fame though.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think that's fair.
I mean, I got it. When is Pujols coming up? Like
it's got to be soon. Somebody sent a tweet sometime, recently.
It's got to be coming. And then the other one and this might be my bias, but I do believe he'll stay on because he was one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball for a long stretch of time, Cole Hamels. I'd have to look at the numbers in comparison to some of the other. Again, I don't think Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
but I definitely think a dude who's going to stay on 10 years.
I agree. I think, we obviously love Cole. I think he's one of those guys who's going to be stuck being judged by the old rules of pitching and not the new ones. And maybe if you were using like the new rules of pitching, he looks that much better because he had this streak of 4 years of being the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
But then it really fell off and really, and so when you look at it in the old school terms, that was all about longevity. How many, your strikeout numbers, all that kind of stuff. I think he's going to be kind of stuck. He's going to be one of those pitchers that is stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
And despite having the championship, him and like Felix will be an interesting sort of comparison. Again, not the same eras, like quote unquote, but a very interesting comparison because Cole has the championship, right? And things like that. And Felix has probably more numbers just based on, I would assume he has, more strikeouts, things like that. But that there'll be an interesting sort of comparison on how each gets judged, and the percentage that they keep.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna take a look at that here in a second because I'm curious on how you say it. But just from a Hamels perspective, when you look at this class, he's got the best case.
Oh yeah, completely. Do any of those other guys have it? Oh well, Hendricks has a championship. Did Murphy win a championship with the Nationals?
No. But well, maybe with the Nationals. I'd have to look. But again, like looking at it from a championship lens is one thing, right? Like, yeah, we won a World Series title when I was on that team. But like, what did you do to contribute to that team?
Right. Fair.
Right. So like when I look at Cole, they won a World Series, but Cole's the NLCS MVP and World Series.
They won because he was the greatest pitcher on the planet.
He was unhittable that postseason.
Yes.
He's a 4-time All-Star, 163 wins, sub 3.5 ERA, sub 1.2 WHIP, over 2,500 strikeouts in his career. So that's more than I thought.
That is more than I thought.
He was definitely one of the better left-handed pitchers in the game. It's going to come down to whether or not he's considered elite in the generation. I think that's really the conversation. And I am going to look up his stats versus Felix Hernandez, and just see what we find.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting.
I don't know where I can find that that comparison chart. I'll have to look it up. We might have to do that next episode.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I'll keep looking for it and see if I can pull it up, the comparison chart and go from there. But Cole, it's very interesting. We might have 4 Phillies, 3 of whom played on the 2008 team. In that generational, probably the best stretch of Phillies baseball in history. 3 of them might be on the ballot at the same time. I wish Ryan could have stayed on. He just didn't have enough juice.
Right.
So I'll keep looking for that though and see if I can find the comparison for he and Felix Hernandez. But yeah, there's our Hall of Fame conversation. That was fun. Always enjoy that.
It is fun to like. I love, especially with like guys like Ichiro. I love when like MLB starts putting out like the career highlight tapes and stuff like that. Like it's so much fun for me to go back and watch that guy hit and manipulate the baseball. It's so much fun, and it's not something I do enough. And I'm gonna love it when Pujols comes back up because he's literally like, he's my Tim Duncan. He's like my favorite. Yeah. He's my favorite non-Philadelphia player.
Yeah,
of a long time.
Yeah. Well, like, I think we all love him.
There was not a video game that went by that I wouldn't like turn off fake trades just to get Pujols on my
Right.
team,
Right.
just to hit with that guy with the stance and everything.
Had to do it.
Yeah.
Had to do it. I just at a real quick glance. Very comparable to Felix Hernandez.
That's interesting. Again, not something I've ever looked up, so I'm very interested.
So here, just at a quick from 2006 to 2020, essentially, it's a chart that I just found. Their ERAs are separated by 1/100th of a point. Cole started 16 more games in his career. I mean, they were separated by 8 complete games. Felix had 25. Cole had 17. Cole had 7 shutouts. Felix had 11. Cole threw 53 more innings in his career. Cole struck out more hitters in his career.
That is shocking.
Lower whip, lower hits per 9, lower walks per 9, higher strikeout per 9, higher strikeout to walk ratio.
Very interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and truly when you he's 5th on the list in totality from 06 to 20. The 4 guys in front of him: Kershaw, Verlander, Scherzer, Greinke.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how
he actually across the board. I don't know how they ranked them. Like I don't know how they decided who was ranked where. Statistically, there's got to be something. Ranks higher than CC Sabathia. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Better ERA, more games started, not as many complete games. Good God, CC Sabathia had 32 complete games.
Yeah.
More strikeouts, better whip. Wow, this is crazy. Lower hits per 9, lower walks, or no, they're dead even walks per 9. I mean, he's right there with Sabathia, who is just first ballot.
But that's what I mean. That's why it's so interesting. Because I don't think if you told people that, they'd be like, no, it's not.
It's true. That's true. It's gonna be
really interesting
where he lands, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a whole nother year for that.
That's right.
So for now, Eagles. We've arrived, Regz. We have arrived on show 198. We have arrived at this conference championship preview. If you would have asked Azzy and Regz after week 4 if they'd be doing a conference championship preview, they both would have laughed in your face because both of us were screaming for Nick Sirianni. Both of us were on here saying, Nick, you need to go. And credit to him, and we've done our mea culpas on here, and we're that. But they are one win, and not just one win, but one home win away from heading to their second Super Bowl in 3 seasons, which felt like the longest of long shots about a year ago.
Starting this season.
So yesterday, someone asked me, rank the teams by best story to least interesting story if they win the Super Bowl. And my ranking was Bills, Eagles, Commanders, Chiefs. And it was in a group chat, and they argued me quite a bit that the Eagles were last and the Chiefs were second. And I was kind of like, I get it. The historical piece to that is, but people don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Like, people don't want them to win. So it's, in that case, not the most interesting storyline. It's the least liked storyline by a long shot. If you ask people, your general Philadelphia or your general football fan, do you want the Chiefs to win? I'd guess more than 90% of people that are not Chiefs fans would say no.
Yeah.
That storyline doesn't interest people. They don't want to see the same old thing. The Bills are absolutely the number one storyline. Like, it is the lovable losers from Buffalo, New York, who have not been able to get it done, are finally in a position to get it done. So yeah, they're number one. And then to me, you're between the Commanders and the Eagles. What is the Commanders' story exactly?
I mean, it's the only rookie quarterback to win a, right? That's it. It's all right. That's it.
And he's fantastic. And I sure. But like, they got a new owner, they got a new head coach, they played a fourth place schedule, they've gotten red hot, and they have a rookie quarterback. That's their story. The Eagles are coming off one of the biggest NFL collapses in history. Started the year the same way they ended it. Have won 13 of 14 games since then in dominating fashion. Almost had the single season rushing record. Could have had it. Saquon's like 360 yards away from breaking 3,000 yards this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a defense that went from 32nd to 1st in a year. I don't know. Seems like a pretty good story to me. Like, I don't know. It was an interesting question. But to me, I definitely think they're being totally undervalued in this whole playoff picture. Disrespected even in a lot of ways. And we'll talk about that towards the end. But let's jump into the nuts and bolts. Let's start Commanders offense against the Eagles defense. A Commanders offense that has definitely improved over the course of the year. A Commanders offense that is scorching hot right now. A Commanders offense that put up 36 against the Eagles in week 16. Look, I think we'd all be kidding ourselves. We didn't say it begins with Jaden Daniels. Like, if we don't say that, then we're lying to the people listening. He is a very, very good player.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that some places are getting a little ahead of themselves, ranking him in the top 5 of quarterbacks. And we did this all last year with CJ Stroud. Like, we did this exact thing last year.
Right.
NFL football is not easy to do the same thing over and over and over. That's why guys like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And why we need to be a little more patient with guys like CJ Stroud and guys like Jaden Daniels. What he's doing right now is special. And I'm not trying to take away from that. I think if you've watched our TikTok videos, I've been more than complimentary of this kid. He's very good. And Vic Fangio was complimentary of him, saying that on his birth certificate, he's young, but he plays like a veteran. He's only like 6 months younger than Jalen Hurts, by the way, just so we're all on the same page there. And then he was asked, like, is he the best rookie you've ever seen? And he said, probably. What else is he going to say? Like, Vic Fangio has been around this game long enough. I've seen better. Then that becomes a media fodder all over the media, right? So, Regz, I don't think there's really much here. I'm going to be very honest with you. I've got a couple of thoughts from this matchup. In that week 16 game, Terry McLaurin got loose one time. Other than that, he didn't do it. He got Quinyon once. But other than that, and their previous game on Thursday Night Football, he did nothing. Jamison Crowder had a really good game against the Eagles in week 16. He was very good.
Mm-hmm.
We know Zach Ertz is their red zone 3rd and short, 4th and short target. They go to him a lot. he's definitely part of that conversation. De'Ami Brown has been a lot better over the course of the last few weeks. I don't think he's played necessarily against the secondary he's playing against this week. Either a matchup with Quinyon or a matchup with Darius Slay is very different than a matchup with whoever the heck was out there for the Lions last week.
Yeah.
So, initial thoughts. The weapons are there. What are the Eagles going to be able to do with these weapons? And how are they going to contain the real weapon, which is Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
So I'm going to you first. I have some thoughts off of that.
I mean, my biggest thing, and it's not some groundbreaking take. It's very simple. I think they have to be able to set a proper edge and not allow him to like get free sneaks up the middle. I think they're going to rush 4. They're not going to send a bunch of pressure at him. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL against the blitz.
Yes.
I do not think we see a ton of blitzes this game.
Yeah.
I think they have to Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Jalix Hunt, all those guys have to understand that we cannot let this guy escape the pocket. He doesn't take a lot of sacks, so I'm not saying you have to get to him, but you can't just give him free reign to run wherever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, man. I don't think if we set good pockets, and just keep him in there, I don't think he's going to smoke us for 300 some yards passing. I don't think it's going to happen. They have 2 guys that can catch the ball. I know some guys have been playing better. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this defense has been really good.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is that they're going to take shots down the field. I think we saw in the game.
You're not afraid to. Yeah.
I think we saw in the last game we played against them that there's been a lot of teams who just have not been willing to go deep against Slay and Quinyon.
Mm-hmm.
They just aren't going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they aren't going to be scared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think our guys are up to the task.
Right.
But I think our guys on the outside have to play really well. Like, they're going to have to show up and show out.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be tough.
I said to you before we got on, and I'll say it now because it's the perfect transition to it. I expect a huge Chauncey Gardner-Johnson game.
Yeah.
I expect him to be an absolute menace. I think he's bitter about what happened. He's going to be a controlled chaos out there. And I do see him ball hawking quite a bit in this game. If they're going to try and throw the ball up, I can see him coming down with maybe 1 or 2 of them and changing the complexion of the game a little bit. I think a couple of things here, Regz. I agree about setting the pocket. They're going to need to be very purposeful. And I think he rolls right a lot. I think I read today when he is pressured, he rolls right 75% of the time.
Wow.
And if that's the case, Nolan Smith needs to be very disciplined in the way that he goes after the. Once you get pressure, you set that edge. And if you get to him, you hold on for dear life until someone comes and finishes him.
Yep.
With that being said, the guy who needs to finish him off is Jalen Carter. Trent Scott will be starting at right guard because Sam calls me their best offensive lineman towards ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Regz, I can't begin to describe to you how big of a loss this is for the Commanders.
Yeah.
This is a dude that they actually relied on to block Jalen Carter one-on-one. So that means that Tyler Biadasz is going to be helping to Jalen Carter quite a bit, which means one-on-ones for Milton Williams, Mora Ajama, who had a huge game against the Rams, for Nolan Smith, for Jalix Hunt, for Josh Sweat. These guys are going to have to get home.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need to do it with 4. You nailed it. This kid kills the blitz. He was 8 of 11 against the Eagles in week 16 against the blitz, the true blitz, because they were sending it true. They were not sitting back because they could not get pressure with 4.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent 11 blitzes, which is way higher than their typical blitz rate.
Yeah, right.
And he killed them. He killed them. He tore them up. Another interesting stat. With Sam Cosmi, pressure rate 17%. Without him, it jumped to 45% against the Lions. Now, the Lions were sending blitz, so take that for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles won't. But it's a huge loss. Even if, let's say that just plays middle ground. It's not 17%. It's not 45%. It sits somewhere between 25 and 30%. If the Eagles are getting pressure with 4 guys between 25 and 30% of the snaps, there's chances for turnovers and the like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a lot. That's a third of your plays, a quarter to a third of your plays that they're getting pressure with 4 with 7 guys sitting in coverage.
Yeah.
A few other quick anecdotes here that I think are the Commanders don't have what I would consider to be a dominant run game. It's efficient. They'll get 3 yards at a clip, get themselves into like third and manageable.
Mm-hmm.
They do use the flats. Austin Eckler in the flat is a thing. Look, let's be very fair. I think Oren Burks played a really good game. He settled in. And I was concerned about the weather being another thing for him, but he played well. We're going to need him in this one.
Yeah.
Because, Daniels is going to escape once or twice, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to make a tackle. He's going to be forced to make a tackle on the edge. So, like, those are going to be big plays. Okay. And the last thing, a very important piece to this, a very big component. They're going to go for it a lot.
Yeah.
They're going to go for it a lot. And can the Eagles get off the field on third down on their side of the field? So, when the Commanders are in their own territory, they will punt. But once they get to the 50,
yeah,
he's going to go. If it's fourth and 5 or less, he's probably going for it. So you've got to treat every third down like it's essentially second down.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, it's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah.
The other thing that really killed them in that week 16 game that not a lot of people are talking about, kickoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders are getting the ball at the 50 every time. I don't know what happened with kickoff coverage that. But
Braden Mann had a really bad day.
And the coverage was bad too there.
Yeah.
It was awful.
I mean, I think in the playoffs they've been using more starters. Like Nolan Smith is out there, Oren Burks is out there. Like they've been using more high up there on the depth chart players.
Yeah.
To make sure that doesn't happen.
You also notice Jake Elliott will probably kick off.
Yes.
And I would assume that they'll probably try and go touchback more often.
Yeah.
One other note from that game, something else that we've talked about, but I don't think we've ever said this. This is by a tweet from Anthony DeBona. I said it to you today. In that week 16 game, through 9 possessions, the Commanders scored only 14 points, gained 194 yards of total offense, and had 4 turnovers. During those 9 possessions, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was on the field. Then he got ejected for saying words. The Commanders went on in their final 4 possessions to score 21 points and gain 210 yards. So just for fun, on their first 9 possessions, they averaged about 20 yards a possession and scored 14 points. One of those touchdowns came on a Pickett interception inside the 20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they averaged 20 yards per possession the first 9 possessions with CJ on the field. Without CJ on the field, they averaged 50 plus yards per possession and scored 21 points. Just something to consider.
Yeah.
In this game. Also of note, when there's been a need for a third since that game, it has not been Tristan McCullum. it has been Avonte Maddox.
Mm-hmm.
McCollum was bad in that game.
Yeah.
Bad. 2 of those touchdowns were on him. 2 of those final 3 touchdowns were on. So we'll see, dude. I think the defense, buckle up. Let's move over to the offensive side of the football. Lots to talk about here, Ray. Lots to talk about here. They're facing a very opportunistic defense. This is a defense who has, I think, 7 turnovers in the postseason, 5 against the Lions. They picked off Jared Goff 3 times, caused him to fumble once inside their own 30, and picked off a throw from a receiver, which, what the hell? But a very opportunistic defense. They run a load of different like stunt, blitz type things with their linebackers. I mean, both very good linebackers. Frankie Louvu is, we'll say, aggressive. And Wagner is one of the all-time greats. They have 2 very good defensive tackles. You know, Jonathan Allen didn't play in either game against the Eagles this year. He's back for this game. Their front 7 is very good. Or I'm sorry, their back 7 is very opportunistic. Those 4 guys, though, can cause havoc. They will cause havoc. Mikey Sanders still has been very good in the postseason with a couple of picks. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore, we know. Jeremy Chin, he'll make his plays, but certainly not, someone I think that the Eagles are going into the game planning around. I think the plan is those linebackers. That's the game plan. So when you think about this defense and you think about the Commanders or the Eagles offense, some initial thoughts, some maybe concerns, some advantages you see. All you.
I think my biggest thing is I'd have to go back and watch how the first couple possessions went, but like the Eagles scored 21 points in the first quarter of that game in Washington. And then their starting quarterback went out. And they scored 6 points off of like 5 turnovers. I'm not saying that, look, yes, is Washington's defense playing better? Yes, it's the same way the Rams defense has been playing better than sort of their overall season DVOA. You know what I mean? They've turned into a much better defense. And look, they're riding a high right now. Like, they're playing well. They just beat the number 1 seed in the NFC, like on the road. They made Jared Goff turn the ball over 4 times. This is what we're talking about. But they also let Jahmyr Gibbs gain like 8 yards a carry when he touched the ball. This is not a perfect defense. Am I saying that like that makes our passing game obsolete? No, we're still going to have to do what we need to do to pass the ball. And again, we can get into a whole conversation about that. But it's not a perfect defense. Like the Lions, despite turning the ball over 4 or 5 times, scored what, 30 something points?
And we're still in it until they threw that interception.
But that's what I mean. Like we're not talking about some all-time great defense.
Right.
Yes, they take advantage when you when you make bad mistakes, but like this Eagles offense, for what it's worth, is not making mistakes. Yeah. Are they the most efficient team that's ever lived? No. Like clearly,
they're not giving you free, but they're
not giving you 4 or 5 or 6 extra possessions.
Yeah.
Like again, some of their 3 and out drives are not the best.
Annoying.
And have bad timing. You know what I mean?
Annoying.
When they really could kind of put the game away or really put a game out of reach. So yes, in that sense, are they giving extra possessions? Sure, but they're not turning the ball over.
Right.
I think that's a really huge key. Does that maybe mean that Jalen is conservative? Yes. But I really do think that I don't think this offense is scared of this defense. Like if you just go back and look at that first quarter, it was 21 to what? Was it nothing?
7.
21-7. Okay.
21-7. Yeah, the Pickett turnover
right,
led to 7.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the quarter.
Yeah. Yep, that led to 7.
Right.
Well, no, it was 14-0. They scored, and then the Eagles scored again.
Right. Okay. So again, that's a throw that Jalen doesn't make. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So look, I am much more afraid of Jaden Daniels in the offense than I am of this Commanders defense. I am not this is not yes, are there things that they have to worry about? Do I wish our offense was, I think it's more so on our offense. Do I wish our passing offense was playing a little better? Yes. Mm-hmm. But I don't sit back and be like, oh crap, we're playing this all time kind of defense that is going to present so many problems to us that it's going to be nearly impossible to succeed.
Yeah, I think recency bias is a thing, and a lot of Philly fans about, they killed this Lions team that scores whenever they want. I mean, if you watch that game, if you truly sat and watched that game, the turnover inside their own 30 was a really nice strip sack. It truly was. Like they got pressure and hit him, and ball came out. Like that was a legit good turnover.
Mm-hmm.
The one of the picks, the first one he threw where he overthrew his receiver by like 5 feet over his head, was absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
Like one of the worst throws I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then later in the game, as they're driving down and Gibbs is running all over him, they decide to give the ball to Goff again, and he underthrows out.
Yeah.
That if he puts that ball 5 yards into the end zone, it's 6. It's 6. Now, Sanders still did a nice job cutting it off, but that ball needs to be out over his shoulder, not thrown where it was.
Right.
So I get, there's definitely recency bias to what we've watched, and you think about the big turnover in the Bucs game. The Bucs got the four down stop inside their own 5, and then they're starting to come out of their end zone a little bit, and whatever happened with Mayfield and the handoff, it just bounced right up to
right.
I'm forgetting which linebacker it came up to, but one of the linebackers just bounced right into their hands. Like, wow, it was Wagner. So like, these are things that the Eagles should be able to avoid. They've avoided them for weeks now. It's why they've gone 13-1 in their last 14 games.
Mm-hmm.
They've been able to avoid the costly turnovers, or multiple turnovers, I should say. So I want a couple of matchups that I think we need to take note of. You mentioned the running game, Gibbs. Barkley had a really nice start to the second game. And after Jalen went out, it wasn't good. And initially, you think, oh, it's because Jalen left.
Yeah.
Well, if you watch that game back, the line wasn't good and the tight ends didn't block well. They were all over the place. And I don't know if some of that was, Kenny not just the discomfort of having the court. I don't know. Because you don't all over the place in run blocking. They're usually so efficient there. But like Mekhi Becton had a really bad game.
Yeah.
Dallas Goedert did not play in that game.
Yeah.
So, you got CJ Uzomah running around not blocking anybody. Calcaterra had a bad game blocking. So this will be interesting because, man, I know how badly Saquon. Like, Jalen after the game on Sunday hugged him and said 1 more, and he goes 2 more. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, Saquon wants this. He's in. And, they are going to load the box. They're going to load the box. And we talked about it in the last episode. If you load the box, you damn well better get him before he gets to the second level. Because once he hits that second level and you're in a loaded, he gone.
Mm-hmm.
He gone. You're not tackling Saquon Barkley with a loaded box and a safety. That's it. So you better get hands on him before he hits the second level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1. 2 is the clear and obvious Jalen Hurts. The knee. People are freaking out. There was video posted today. He was doing warm-ups the first 20 minutes when media was there. wasn't going through the motion super hard. And me personally, I'm like, Jalen Cerebral, that dude ain't showing anybody anything. He knows the for 20. He ain't showing anybody anything, right? He's just going through the motion.
Yeah, it's also why coming off maybe a like tweak to your knee, are you gonna like be crazy in warm-ups? Like, you know what I mean? Like all of us have had injuries. Yeah. You're not trying to push it 100% for every second. You're like, this 100%. Is not when I need to do this.
Yep.
I need to gradually build to make sure I am as comfortable as possible when the game matters.
They're going to shoot him up with something for the game. Couple of things to the run game effect. The first being like, we do need to see, I think on the first possession, we need to see Jalen either pull it and show that he's willing to, or design quarterback like power, quarterback counter.
Yep.
Something where they see him run the ball. And it might be the only time you have to do it all game. Then.
You have to show he's able.
Right. If you do it one time in your opening script, then you're in position to at least make them think twice about,
This is a good time to call that stupid defensive coordinator for the Commanders a schmuck. Whoever that guy is.
What an idiotic thing to say.
Jesus Christ.
For many reasons. The first being, hey, guy, we know. One.
Right.
Like, you didn't hide it last time.
Right.
Right?
We're aware of how your guys play. Thank you.
And two, your quarterback runs as well. So probably not a great idea to put him in harm's way with that sort of a comment. Not that the Eagles play that way. We've not seen them do that all year.
Right.
But like, it's not a smart thing to say. It's not. And look, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm saying that to the officials before the game on Sunday.
That's right.
The same way that people say, look for them moving downfield early, and look at Jalen late. And if they do it once and it gets flagged, they're not doing it again. I can promise you they're not doing it again. And I'd be saying it anyway after the Louvu hit. I'd be saying it either way. I, to this day, think it was dirty. Yeah. To this moment in time, think it was dirty. And I've watched enough of that guy now to know he has one of those every week.
Oh, yeah.
Like that Jared Goff hit last week. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And he's saying this week, I was just trying to get my guy in the end. Shut up.
Yeah, that's BS.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. You know who it was standing in the way. All you had to do is flinch at him and say boo, and he wasn't going to touch him.
Yep.
Guy's an absolute clown.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love nothing more than to pull Jordan Mailata and just hit him once. I'm not trying to hurt him, but let the 6'8" former rugby player pull on a run and just remind him, go ahead. I'll be here all day. Just remind him. Maybe that's your quarterback counterplay.
Yeah.
Pull Jordan Mailata and go ahead, Frankie. Go ahead. So that's one of them. Just making sure that Jalen shows he can. Even if he can't, he just needs to show he can one or two times.
Yep.
The second part to that is, if they are going to still load the box, I love what the Eagles did against the Steelers early in the game, showing empty and forcing them to spread out, and hitting those passes. And then they're forced to think about it. And you could still get Saquon on the field and get the ball in his hands and empty. You can still get creative in the way that you design plays to get him touches in that way. So I would definitely do that to create a quicker passing game, and make them think twice about maybe we don't want to load the box when they go into run. Because if they decide to shift, him out, then we're stuck with one of our linebackers, Bobby Wagner, on Saquon Barkley. Not a good for us. And then I think the only other matchup I really want to talk is the AJ Brown Marshawn matchup. They play a good mix of man and zone. I think they probably play a little bit more man, like cover 2 type.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ had 8 for 97 in week 16.
Yeah.
With Kenny Pickett.
With 2 PIs, right? 2 like 40-yard PIs.
So to me, this is a game to try. If they're going to take shots, I wouldn't mind seeing. Now, I want to see some quick stuff, but if you can get Jalen a little bit of extra time, I'd love to see some shots downfield to AJ with Lattimore, because he really had his way with him. Lattimore's been playing better the last few weeks. Mike Evans got him though a couple of times. The Lions don't really have that dominant outside receiver. Amon St. Brown's their best receiver, but he's in the slot a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lattimore was like not matching up on an AJ Brown, Mike Evans type. So that matchup will be interesting, especially if, AJ's been quiet, and we know after a couple of quiet AJ, we usually get a loud AJ. So it wouldn't shock me if AJ got close to 100 this week. Especially if the Eagles are front running a little bit and they decide that they want to, go for the jugular, taking some shots, things like that. Definitely in the realm of possibility. So let me do this, Regz. If you're Vic Fangio, I'm going to go back to the defenses here. If you're Vic Fangio, what has you staying late at the offense this week?
Yeah, it's the only guy. It's Jaden Daniels. Like, it's not. This is not a hard choice. This is not a difficult decision. This is not a nuanced thing. It's Jaden Daniels. Right. He's playing really well. Yeah. He's carrying this offense. His ability to turn nothing into something and convert these fourth downs on a ridiculous rate is what is carrying this team. Like, that's it.
Right.
That's it, man. Like that.
And if you're Dan Quinn, what has you staying late from because he's the defensive guy?
Yeah, Saquon Barkley.
I agree with you. For me, it's knowing Saquon Barkley, knowing that he needs to like break the all-time like full season record.
Yeah,
that dude's because he wanted the all-time regular season.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be hungry for that big chunk, right? Yeah. Like, he's gonna want it. So I do agree with that. I think that's about right. I think if you're the Eagles, you try and stay true to who you are. Stick to that run game early. See if you can get points up early. They've been better about that recently.
Mm-hmm.
Getting points, early in games, getting out to lead.
Yeah.
I would love to see an early lead, get that stadium rocking.
Yeah.
Get a big lead early, get that stadium rocking, and hopefully we're heading to New Orleans. So, Regz, I do want to do key. We're only going to do one like we always do. And I'm going to start. That's been our thing, so I'm going to stick to the pattern here. For me, the key to this game is getting off the field early. Don't let them get in your territory a whole lot. Keep them on your side, on their side of the field. Get off the field quickly. Don't give them hope.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more fourth downs, the longer the possessions, the less of a chance you have of winning this game. I agree with you. I don't think they're not going to score. Like, the Eagles are going to score a point.
Yeah. So
for me, it's about keeping them from sustaining drives and giving themselves fourth down tries, because I don't want the ball in Jaden Daniels' hand for the win at the end of the football game.
Yeah.
I want a comfortable couple score lead.
Yeah.
To be able to walk away from.
My first choice was a similar defensive one, but I'll switch it up and I'll go on the offensive side. I think it's I don't need a 400-yard passing game. I need this passing game to do enough to keep those linebackers honest. That's it. We need to see enough of Jalen being able to keep the ball. We need to see enough of scheming these guys open and getting these guys good chances to get passes to keep these linebackers from just keying on Saquon Barkley all the time. Because when you make them hesitate, even if it's for half a second, that's when you win. So they have to be able to keep this offense from being one-dimensional.
Okay.
So that's what I think a key is.
Okay. All right. So it's a 6-point spread. Eagles are 6-point favorites, opened at 4.5. Vegas must have had some sort of injury thing. One thing I didn't talk about, and I think is important, is the status of Cam Jurgens and Dallas Goedert as we head into this game. They've both been DNPs the last 2 days, and one with the back, one with the ankle.
Dallas practiced today a little bit, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, he was listed as a DNP.
Oh, maybe somebody saw him out there for like.
He was out there. He was out there, but he didn't practice.
Yeah.
And Cam Jurgens wasn't out there at all.
Yep.
So Landon Dickerson took snaps at center. Tyler Steen would be playing left guard. Would be
that's a big deal
line in history, by the way. It is a big deal. It's a huge deal. Now, after the game, after practice, Landon Dickerson was asked about it, and he was like, "Oh, I think he's going to play."
I mean, I think Nick even said in his press conference that he would be out there, and everyone was kind of surprised that
he wasn't.
Cam wasn't. Yeah.
With the postseason, usually like
just get him healthy for the game. You know what I mean? Like
you don't worry until you see out.
Right.
You don't worry until you see out. Their
only job is to get these guys healthy for the game. That's it.
Yeah. And again, they'll probably shoot him up with something.
Yeah.
All right. So -6, 47.5 point total, which felt low, considering the way that the Commanders have scored and the way that they've let up points, as well. And the Eagles in a snow game at 28 could add 45.
Yeah.
When you look back on that game. So Regz, I think the Eagles, I really believe they dominate this game. I think that they are going to play so angry. I think that place is going to be out of control hype. There are a lot of Commander, they're going to go 50-50. You can tell that there are a lot of Commander fans who haven't watched football in like 10 years. And I have Commander fans that are friends of mine, and I know they're them when I say that. I simply mean that if you think you're coming into Philly and getting 50% of the link for a playoff game, you're out of your mind. When we take over 50% of your stadium for regular season, you're out of your mind. So I expect 2017 energy in that stadium on Sunday afternoon. I think it's going to be loud. I think it's going to be intense. I think the Eagles get off to a fast start, and it really settles them in and really puts the Commanders on their heels because they've been playing in games that they've been able to control. And I think this Eagles defense controls the game. I've got Eagles 38, Commanders 21.
Okay. I had 33-20.
Okay. All right. So we both have the over.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see.
I think there's a chance we might be able, like, I almost wanted to say 17, but I'm giving a little bit of respect to how Daniels has been playing.
Yeah.
Like, and we're not giving up whatever, like 4 touchdowns or whatever it is. Like, that's not happening.
No, well, and you think about the way they scored some of those touchdowns against Detroit. They had some really explosive plays. And the Eagles just don't allow those. I know there are probably people listening saying, well, they got explosive plays against the Eagles in week 16. Yeah, they got they got one on a guy who hasn't given up any all year, Quinyon Mitchell. And I'm sure he learned from that. He learns pretty quickly.
Also in a tired week 16.
Yeah.
Like, that defense looked tired.
And, well, they were on the field a lot that day.
Yes, they were.
And quickly. A lot of 3 and outs.
Mm-hmm.
And the other play was the play that they kind of gave up on because it was 12 minutes on the field.
Yeah.
And it got all fluky. So they don't give up a ton of explosive plays. So you're limited in possessions. And again, if the Eagles play the way they've been playing, 5 turnovers is a stretch.
Yeah.
It's a stretch.
Yeah.
So, even in we're not even, it's a stretch. It's a stretch. So, all right, look, one way or the other, we'll be back on Sunday. We'll see if they win. We'll be back later because we're gonna want to know who.
Yeah,
we're gonna want to know.
Yep,
we're gonna want to know who they're playing. If they don't, we'll probably be back a little earlier. Either way, you'll get your episode on Monday morning for your work commute. But we both got an Eagles win. We both got them going to New Orleans. They seem confident. Jalen seems confident. I think they're a better team through and through.
Yep.
Maybe when you look at it 1-53 and everybody thinks quarterback is 1 right now, 1 is theirs. 2-53 belongs to the Eagles. And I still think Jalen Hurts is going to have a pretty big chip on his shoulder this week after everything that's said about him.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that being said, we look forward to seeing you again on Sunday, one way or the other. Until then, click subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe right there, right below us. You can see it. Go and do it. Go wherever you get your podcasts, follow, rate, do the thing. Then head over to social media at the Phixated Pod on Twitter, at Big Ray, at the Mic Drop 5 and at Big Regz with a Z. Head on over to Facebook, Phixated fan page, and on TikTok at the Phixated Pod, which I am putting up videos every single day, previewing these games.
It. Yep.
Talking about what's going on. I am posting them to Facebook. I haven't posted them yet to Twitter. We'll get on that soon. And certainly we're working on an Instagram.
Yes.
But make sure you check the merchandise link in the show description. And until we talk to you on Sunday, be good to yourselves, be good to others, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And more than anything else, go Birds.
Go Birds, baby.
Oh, my God. Deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.